When planning cities for the future, we have to take into consideration the changes that are happening in the world, both with the world at large and with the people living in it, and what needs the people of the future will have. So don't plan for how it was in the past, plan for how it is going to be in the future. Think into the long term rather than the short term, and particularly consider that the world will keep changing in the future. So don't plan for a static future city, but of a city that can continually evolve to accommodate the changing needs of the world. For instance, we know that it will probably have a rising sea level. Not how much is uncertain, and we'll have more rough weather. So cities should be able to accept a rise in sea levels of perhaps up to 1 meter in this century, but also globalization, meaning that we'll see a lot more people traveling, both on a transient and semi-permanent status, and we will also see a lot of people working in different places than where they're staying, working through the internet. So the idea that people are living in the same neighborhood where they're working will no longer be true. And we'll also see a lot of people moving towards the major cities. Urbanization is one of the major trends shaping future cities, and we'll see more mega cities in the future that are cities with more than 10 million people. That requires some new ways of thinking about cities, particularly transport infrastructure with a much denser population. Urbanization means that one challenge that has always been for cities will be exaggerated: the balance between the needs of the individual and the balance of the needs of the community. It is much better for an individual to have his or her own car, so he or she can go from A to B directly without having to think about schedules for public transportation and whatnot. But however, in a mega city, there's not room for everybody to have a car. So we'll have to focus more on collective means of transportation, on intelligent transportation, where you can have a denser flow of people in traffic. Even a fairly small capital like Copenhagen has an influx of about 1,000 new residents every month. Also, you have to consider that some of the developments of the city with high-rises, the new apartments, is better for the evolution of the city because it can accommodate more people, but the people living nearby may not want new high-rises with lots of apartments. So there's always conflicts between the needs of the individuals and the need of the community. But the community needs will have to be more in focus when more people will have to live together than is the case today. Something we call small space living, where people will have to adapt to much smaller apartments and live in, and take more of the functions of the home out into the cities. When you think about it, the cities of the 20th century have mainly been designed to accommodate cars to the extent where we cannot no longer have children or dogs playing freely in the streets without risk being run over. Perhaps you should consider designing cities of the 21st century for people rather than cars. We have to face the problem that we cannot always predict the future precisely. So we'll have to be also make adaptable cities that can easily be adapted to whatever changes may come, rather than planning for one specific future that may not turn out to be the future that will really be. So always have a city that is in flux and can easily adapt it to whatever changes and new needs that will arise. For instance, when we design buildings, we can design buildings to be more adaptable. You can change the way you are on the outside and the inside, or maybe we should design cities that have a limited lifespan of maybe just a decade or two, rather than building buildings that will last centuries, because then it will almost certainly be obsolete long before the lifespan is over.